All right, boys. Full exhibition race tonight. Try not to get in any fights. Let's have some fun. Sorry, did I just run them up on the wall?
Yes, I told you not to do that. Or we'll finish later.
Awesome job. Appreciate y'all.
And what's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Historic Hot Laps. This is technically episode number 30, so it's crazy how fast this has been going by. We've got a big weekend here. We've got the 24 Hours of Daytona over there at IMSA, sports car racing. We've got NASCAR Clash at Bowman Gray. What a good weekend. Come back into racing. Let's kick it off with some recaps. Looking at the 63rd running of the 24 Hours of Daytona, it was a pretty good race overall. Obviously, 24 hours is a long time to race. There's a lot of stuff that can happen. We saw 14 full course cautions, which really shook things up for the field overall. But per usual, all came down to the last hour within the final minutes of the race, that kind of thing like it usually does if you're on that lead lap. So let's just talk about the results right out of the gate here. GTP class, Penske and Porsche did it again, back-to-back wins at Daytona. You had Tandy, Nazar, Vanthor, all the usuals over there at Penske. It's crazy Roger Penske went so many years without winning the 24 Hours Daytona, and now we're back-to-back years of winning. There's a lot of memes going around. He couldn't really hold his excitement too much. He just looked bored and out of it. But the man's, in his 80s. He's still hitting the racetrack all the time. 24 hours is a long time to monitor the team. So obviously he's excited, but it was kind of interesting watching the results of that. So that covers GTP class. LMP2 went to Tower Motorsports, and they had Ferrano, Alvarez, Uter, and Bourdais. So Sebastian Bourdais, IndyCar Hall of Famer, basically, over there at Tower Motorsports, getting the win on that one. Moving from there, GTD Pro. Ford got their very first win at the 24 Hours of Daytona with the Mustang. Ford Multimatic Motorsports, class win in the Dark Horse. Drivers of that one were, we had Mize, Vervich, and Olsen. So pretty awesome to see. They clearly, right out of the gate, the Ford was fast, but they were having a lot of tire wear issues. Clearly, they figured that out. So good to see Ford walk away with a win in GTD Pro. Then we had a GTD class, the Corvette at AWA, driven by Coach Furr, Kern, Fidani, and Bell. They all got the win there in that Corvette. So good job to them. There was a lot of drama going into the last few laps there, a lot of stuff we could cover, but we're not trying to get through, all of it in 24 hours worth of racing, but definitely worth watching. I believe NBC Sports has out a 20-minute recap of the 24 hours. Definitely worth watching it if you're into sports car racing. Another exciting thing is that IMSA's YouTube page had over 2 million hits for their live content during the race. They were running a live stream pretty much the whole time, which shows that sports car racing definitely does still have its niche. It is still alive and well, so awesome to see that from them. And just that motorsports as a whole is doing well, so always like to see that. We've got a few snips here of drivers' perspectives on the racing incidents over the last 24 hours, so let's take a break here and check out what they had to say about it.
No comment really. I think it was hard racing. Obviously coming from DTM and from Europe, I was used to hard racing, but today was pretty special. Not much more to say. I think the entertainment level was off the charts, and hopefully the fans enjoyed the racing.
Yeah, it was obviously an amazing result for Ford. Cool to be part of it and keep the car clean and end up with some hardware. So good way to start the year.
Yeah, this race is awesome, and I'm so glad I got to be a part of it for my second time, and really frustrated with my final two stints. We had a really good shot. We were third, saving fuel, and would have been good there for that last run if I didn't make that one mistake and get a drive-through. So frustrated with myself, but just really had a blast with entire TF Sport team, WeatherTech for coming on board, and all my teammates made it really fun. So I'm glad I got to do this race again, but frustrated with how I finished it.
The 48 BMW that's laps down, whether it's the driver, the team, or BMW themselves, clearly gave him orders to hold me up, to basically slow me down enough so that the sister car can get by. Just poor standard of driving. Pretty embarrassing on their part to race like that. It's not what IMSA is about. It's not what sports car racing's about. This race too. It's a shame that that's how they want to race. But they've kind of set the standard now for the rest of the race. we'll continue to drive as we have been, which is with respect. But if they, if they want to continue to race like that, I don't think IMSA's going to take too kindly to it. So
there's a gigantic hole in the bottom of the motor, and somehow I don't know what. We didn't have any oil pressure warnings or anything, but we blew it to hell. It was, I came across start finish, lifted off the gas just before going to brake, and it just let go. So quite a dramatic finish. Gigantic concussion inside the cockpit, but just got to take a moment to thank everybody that's been with me in the last 25 years of doing this. This is the first motor explosion that I've had in the 24, so just lucky that I've had so many years before that where we've had good runs and all good bits. So big props to this crew for so many years of having my back and giving me super fast cars and wins and podiums and all the good stuff. So sad it ends like this, but at the end of the day, I had a lot of good ones before this, so nothing to be sad about.
And the other big thing I guess we should definitely talk about on this episode, let's talk about the Clash at Bowman Gray. NASCAR weekend is back, starting off the season with some short track action over there at Bowman Gray. I feel like NASCAR did a great job on this one, putting up safer barriers, sold out crowd for every event. You had the modifieds running during the day, which is what that track is known for. Quarter mile oval, just super exciting stuff. Had the heats, qualifiers, last chance qualifier, which was awesome and probably ran twice as long as planned due to the amount of caution laps and only green flag laps count. So pretty awesome. Overall, we saw Chase Elliott take the win on that one, claiming his first ever Clash victory. He led 171 of the 200 laps on that one. Very impressive from Hendrick Motorsports and what they had going on there. It's crazy to see how the differences in cars. He was super tuned, dialed in, and the other Hendrick cars didn't seem to really have much for anybody. Denny Hamlin, who won last year's race, the Clash in LA, he led for 28 laps. He couldn't hang on to it. He ended up getting third place, still getting a podium, which is a good start to the season for them. But the real impressive one I want to talk about is Ryan Blaney. To get into the race, he used his points provisional, as Logano actually qualified for it. Worked on that car over and over and over, and ended up going from the very last starting position at the start of the race to finishing second and almost having what it took to reel in Elliott, but obviously trying to pass all those cars, run those other lines, wear out some tires. But all things considered, an awesome day for that team. And Ryan Blaney's obviously going to be somebody to keep an eye on for this season and the championship hunt and everything else. Several incidents and cautions throughout it. Kyle Larson and William Byron did a synchronized spin out, which was pretty cool to see. Larson had a rough day. Carson Hocevar getting spun into the wall. Hocevar caused a few different incidents throughout it. We saw some cool stuff from Ty Gibbs trying to launch his car. Tyler Reddick, Chris Buescher had notable battles as well, but they kept their cars pretty clean. But overall, the Clash, they did a really good job. There's been a lot of polls online post-Clash about if this was a good race, where should the Clash be held from now on, and Bowman Gray is winning hands down as the best place for the Clash. So overall, super cool to see. Good show from NASCAR on getting stuff done, and just awesome overall. So good to see that. Hopefully we'll see another Clash at Bowman Gray, the heritage there, all the fans, everything else, like just a good time overall. So, and that wraps up the race recaps this week. Obviously we've got Daytona coming up, so we're excited for that. Got Indy cars practicing here soon. St. Pete's the very first weekend of March, so we're getting closer and closer to full-on race seasons, everybody. All right, moving over to some news. Let's get it going here. So, big thing right out of the gate for IndyCar. Michael Cannon already split with Prema weeks after being announced as their head of the IndyCar engineering program. In a statement that Cannon released, he had this to say about the whole thing. And I quote, "I recently resigned my position with Prema Racing. I was hired as head of engineering for Prema's IndyCar program, in part due to 25 years in the series, as well as my track record at the Indianapolis 500 as of late. In very short order, I felt the majority of my advice and counsel was ignored. It was my opinion that my time at Prema was not going to be used wisely, and thus I resigned my position." So that's quoting his statement he put out. Pretty interesting turn of events. Leaves an all-star hitter on the trading block for any team to pick up. Obviously, Michael Cannon knows how to get speed out of the ovals, especially at Indy. Keep an eye on this and see where Cannon ends up. Foyt obviously running him the last few years and their big results they've been having. They'd be silly not to try to recoup the loss and get him back, but also another program that's kind of without leadership, especially on that side of things, is Team McLaren. So maybe McLaren will dig deep in the pockets and pick him up. Obviously, Cannon being a Chevrolet team guy for most of his career, it would be an asset to any team that's running a Chevrolet. Could end up over at ECR. That would also be pretty exciting if we could team up, say Rossi with a Michael Cannon. But only time will tell, so we'll see what happens there. Penske Entertainment has taken over as the promoter for the season finale race in Nashville. As we know, this was put on by Big Machine Records previously, tied to a lot of music promotion. So hopefully Penske doesn't drop the ball on this one. That group over at Penske Entertainment, they do a good job, so hopefully they won't. But last year had a good turnout. Event had great feedback. I might actually try to go to this event this year. We'll see. But now that Big Machine's not involved and there won't be the music side of it, I don't know what'll happen. And maybe Penske will still, team up with them and get something done. So we'll see as the season progresses how that season finale weekend's going to shape up. Alex Palou and McLaren contract battle in the news again. We're going on year 2 of this now. He's off to London to attend another round of mediation right after he got out of the car in IMSA 24 Hours of Daytona. But his legal battle against McLaren is still in progress, so we'll see how that goes. I believe they're trying to get, I don't remember the number now, but some astronomical millions of dollars from him for a breach of contract. So Andretti's locked in a nice sponsor for the 2025 season. Chili's, the restaurant Chili's will be a primary sponsor of Kyle Kirkwood's number 27 ride. Gonna have the Chili Wagon, which will be awesome to see. Hopefully they, change up liveries quite a bit, keep things exciting, but it's awesome to see. We saw them running on a couple times for Corey LaJoie last season over in NASCAR. Now they're over here at Andretti and IndyCar, so it'll be interesting to see. It'll be weird not seeing Kyle Kirkwood in pink, but the Chili's livery will probably be pretty awesome. NXT driver announcement. 17-year-old Max Taylor will join HMD Motorsports for their development. In his skills, he's only 17 going into this. He's going to run 5 events. He's going to run Barber Motorsports, the Detroit Grand Prix. He's going to run the Oval at Iowa. We're going to see him at Laguna Seca, and then his last one will be Milwaukee Mile there for the Oval as well. So kind of cool to see. He's obviously got some money behind him. He's got some sponsorships. He's got some skill, so we'll just see how it all shakes up for him. Moving over to NASCAR news. Sadly, we lost a great voice in NASCAR, Mr. Bill Weber, who called NASCAR coverage on multiple networks over the years. Passed away at the age of 67. He actually passed away over a month ago, but the family didn't release anything until recently. But during his career, Bill worked for ESPN, TNT Sports, and NBC Sports over the years. So 67 years old, it's too young to go. Sad for that. Prayers for the families, but they're pretty quiet about it. They want their privacy, but it is good to know that it's out there now, and the sports world knows that he has passed away. Joe Gibbs Racing has signed a multi-year deal with King's Hawaiian. The delicious rolls that we used to see all over the RFK, and specifically Brad Keselowski's car, previous seasons, they've moved over to JGR. We'll be partnered with Denny Hamlin. Obviously, we know Hamlin lost the FedEx deal that he's had for almost his entire career, so it'll be interesting to see that transition. Saw pictures of his hauler going into the Clash, and it was pretty bare. Wasn't a whole lot of sponsorship on that thing, so looks kind of weird without all the FedEx logos and everything else on it. So Richard Childress Racing has announced that Casey Kane's going to be their third entry for the Xfinity program at Rockingham this year. He was at the test this last weekend with the Xfinity Rockingham test and truck test. So this will be a venture sponsored by Hendrick Cars. He's going to drive the number 33 Chevrolet, but awesome to see Casey Kane back in a stock car. He's been running open wheel sprints for quite some time and does pretty well from time to time on that. So it'll be good to see overall. Matt Kenseth will compete in the Xfinity race at Rockingham this year as well, driving for JRM in their number 9 machine. A lot of cool return drivers for the Rockingham event with the Xfinity series. We did get word that Corey LaJoie will make an attempt to do the 2025 Daytona 500 and a few other select races. He's going to be driving for Rick Ware Racing, same team he finished up with last year. He'll also be working for the team at Amazon Prime for their NASCAR coverage of the races this year, doing pre-race and post-race shows. So that'll be good. Keep him. He's very good behind the microphone. Obviously, he's got a great podcast, but seeing him in the race car again will be good as well. He clearly made a good relationship with Rick Ware Racing to try to get a couple one-offs this year. Jimmy Johnson now owns the majority share of the Legacy Motor Club. Not sure if this will lead to any changes to the team's overall performance in the upcoming season or not, but he has brought in a couple of big money investors that are pretty big in motorsports, so we'll see how it all shakes out. Hopefully it'll work out for him. I'd like to see an improvement in that team, especially for the 8-time champion. Moving over to Formula One news, Audi has officially acquired Sauber Holdings in a deal estimated to be valued around 650 million euros, and that's roughly 675 million US dollars. This completes the Audi acquisition of the F1 team and adds their name to the lineup. In Formula One moving forward, we already knew they were coming on strong. No real surprise here, but it's all done and official. So good to see for that team and everything they've got going on there. Hopefully that'll help bring some more performance to that team as well. Another interesting one that happened over the last week, the FIA has announced that Johnny Herbert will no longer be the F1 safety steward effective immediately. In a statement from the FIA, they quoted, "It is with great regret that we announce today that Johnny Herbert will no longer fulfill the position of Formula One driver steward for the FIA. Johnny is widely respected and brought invaluable experience and expertise to his role. However, after discussion, it was mutually agreed that his duties as an FIA steward and that of a media pundit were incompatible." So backlash, blowback, whatever you want to call it, from him siding with drivers on more situations than he was siding with the FIA. A lot of comments on their whole push to censor drivers' languages and everything else over the last season. So kind of a fallout from that, but at least we know that there's going to be some shakeups, and we'll find out what comes of all of it and who's going to replace him in that spot. And then finally, a little bit of sports car news. McLaren has hinted pretty heavily of a lot of interest in entering IMSA or the WEC, the World Endurance Championship, by 2027. A lot of speculation on if this is going to affect their IndyCar team, which struggles some weekends for performance, and as a slew of new employees and some new driver contracts, and makes you wonder what's going to come out of the performance on the IndyCar side. Clearly, I don't think we'll see an effect on Formula One, as that's the priority, and they won the Constructors' Championship this last year. They're pretty dialed in over there on that side, and it's going to be priority. But McLaren's got a bunch of money. They've got a ton of sponsors. They got a whole lot going on, so very well could have a great impact on the IndyCar division, but I doubt we'll see anything affect the Formula One side of things.
Well, he drove with his heart. He had tremendous skill as well, so he could do things with the car that other drivers couldn't.
Rodriguez makes a beautiful start.
Also, the way he drove was very flamboyant as well.
Me pasó volando. Cojones. Tenía muchos cojones.
Una vuelta más y Gonchi no llegaba. El auto viene al límite.
Yo tampoco tenía nada que perder, tenía todo para ganar.
¡Me lo tienen, vamos Uruguay!
Realmente esto es tan grande que yo no quiero tomar conciencia de todo eso.
Se ha cumplido un sueño, creo que para él y para los uruguayos.
Everyone loved him. It was a devastating blow when he died.
Todo lo que no podía pasar le pasó y era el día de él y ya.
And off goes Rodriguez.
One thing memory I have is his big smile.
I think his smile was just the way he was.
Yes, look at the delight. He just beams ear to ear, doesn't he?
Y él era la superestrella con las gafas, era diferente.
Porque su vida él la concebía solamente compitiendo y ganando.
Winning Monaco, winning Spa, winning Nürburgring, places that when I was a kid, I dream about it.
No one could have beaten him that day.
I'd witnessed, to me, one of the best racing drivers that I'd ever seen.
Pero yo también quiero demostrar frente a los de Fórmula 1 que voy a ser el mejor.
The legacy has to go on. We know if he was still here, he'd be doing great things.
I miss him. I really miss him.
All right, let's kick off our history portion. This is going to be a quick one, real short this week. We just want to profile a driver that was gone too soon, a lot of potential, real short stuff, and then we'll tie in some other comments from some other people on it. But today's history is about Gonzalo Rodriguez, born January 22nd, 1971 in Uruguay. He passed away at Laguna Seca September 11th, 1999. Obviously, that's where a track is, so we all know how this story ends. But he had decent success in Formula 3000 for 3 seasons. He took 2 wins in 1998 at Spa and the Nuremberg, winning the following season in Monaco and finishing 3rd in both championship years, 98 and 99, which back in those days, the amount of drivers with talent was insane. There's a stacked roster for sure. Following a rotation of drivers as teammates to Al Unser Jr. in the kart Penske Racing's second car, he was given an opportunity at the Detroit Grand Prix in 1999 and scored a point in his only race. So his first race in kart, Detroit, 99, and he scored some points, finishing decently. Then his next round of experience was going to come at Laguna Seca. So let's talk about it. At Laguna Seca Raceway, there was a practice session. This was his second kart race, as we just talked about, and he was fatally injured. So this is the story behind it. A stuck throttle was initially thought to be the cause of his car overshooting a braking point, leaving the track, hitting the tire barrier, and slamming into the wall behind the barrier because full throttle, no brakes, into the entry of the corkscrew, which is where we lose that elevation and that track and everything else. A super dangerous spot. We see a lot of incidents there, but they're usually slower incidents, more controlled. The impact caused his car to flip over the barrier and land upside down on the other side of the wall. Rodriguez was killed instantly by a skull fracture, which was caused by the impact with the wall, which was lined by only just some tires. They didn't have a safer barrier there or anything. It was just a layer of tires, nothing to really absorb the hit too much. Killed on impact, but because of this incident, additional tire wall was installed at the end of the straightaway, and there was some improvements made to the track safety there. Unfortunately, too little too late, but that's how a lot of these things are written, right? Al Unser Jr. had written in his biography that he and Gonzalo were running Lola B99 chassis with the Hewland gearbox that Unser said had a lot of issues slamming into neutral during high-load downshifts. It is Al Unser Jr.'s belief that this is what caused the incident for Rodriguez. He's been pretty adamant about this in his book, noting that he had similar close calls during practice himself, running the identical chassis and gearbox. So Unser believes it was a gearbox issue, not a throttle issue, which they had both reported issues with the gearbox and were voices falling on deaf ears type situation, and then we lost a life over it. So whether that be the case or the stuck throttle, we can't go back in time and change it, but just know that the potential that he had was so incredible. Rodriguez did have a contract in place to compete in the 2000 Kart Series Championship with Patrick Racing, and there were rumors that Minardi could hire him for the 2001 Formula One season. So there was a ton of eyes on this guy. Gone too soon. Very successful driver in the few opportunities he had on the big stage, if you will. But unfortunately, he falls victim to some stuff that happens in motorsports. It is the most dangerous game, so it's unfortunate. I just take a minute to remember who he is, and he was very highly respected by all the other drivers in the paddock. Like I said, to get Al Unser Jr. to sign off on being your wingman, that's pretty high up in the motorsports world. So, and with that, we'll close out this episode. As always, like, share, subscribe, follow us on all the socials, Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Hit us up at historichollaps@gmail.com. We really do appreciate the listens. We're going to keep this thing going again this year. Try to keep gaining momentum. Working on some more gear. We've got a couple things in the works. Maybe we'll do a giveaway or something here in the near future. We'll figure something out. But race season is here now. We've seen a couple races. We've got stuff to talk about. So soon we'll get back to the weekly episodes. And as far as everything else goes, take it easy. And thanks for tuning in.
27-year-old Gonzalo Rodriguez, a rookie from Uruguay. Preparing to make just his second start for Team Penske as today's Shell 300 for the Kart Champ cars. Killed while practicing at Laguna Seca yesterday morning. Rodriguez was running in a tough corkscrew section of the Laguna Road course when his number 3 Marlboro Lola left the road, apparently with a stuck throttle, flipped over the wall, landed upside down. Dr. Steve Olvey attended him.
It is with deep regret that I must announce that driver Gonzalo Rodriguez was fatally injured this morning in the crash that occurred.
Thank you for sharing your time with us.
If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Don't forget to follow us at Historic Hot Laps on X and all your other social platforms for the latest updates and sneak peeks into upcoming episodes. You can reach out to us directly at historichotlaps@gmail.com. Send us your feedback, questions, comments, opinions, and additional subject matter you'd like us to cover. Thanks for tuning in.